Okay, it should be recording. Do you have a little record? Yep, it's recording.
Yep.
Perfect. Um,
Awesome.
well, hi, Alana. I'm Abby. I'm here for a visa advising appointment. Can you help me?
Of course. Hi, Abby. I'm glad you decided to reach out. We are a resource to you. So, what questions do you have?
I'm from Pennsylvania. So I'm not from Chicago, but I'm a Loyola student and I'm here for the semester before I go to Rome in the spring. I'm so excited. But how do I like what steps do I need to know for the visa? I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, great. So we have a couple different options. I kind of like to call it choose your adventure. So for the visa process, you can either do as a Loyola student, all students going to the Rome Center have the ability and access to mail in their student visa, which is a good option. Another one is to do because you are a Loyola student, you can do an in-person appointment at the Chicago consulate. And then also another option, because you're local in the Chicago area, you could potentially go in during their hours of operation, in which they're open to the public, the Chicago consulate, and do a drop off. It would look similarly to a mail-in. You'd prepare all your documents and have your signature witnessed by a notary, but you would go down to their office and drop off your materials. Sometimes it's a little bit safer. Students like to have that option as well. Which one works for you?
I think I could drop it off. Um, when is the consulate open?
Sure. So I always tell students to just double check on their website, but typically they're open to the public Monday through Friday, like 9 to 12:30. But again, hours could change, so I always direct students to go to their website just to verify.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the drop-in option. I've heard it's really challenging to get us an appointment, so I'd rather just make sure everything goes smoothly with the mail-in option or the drop-in off option.
And I would agree with you. Those appointments can be pretty tight to get. And you're lucky enough being in the Chicago area as a Loyola student to have that right in your back door, as I say. So I would agree with you and recommend that as well. So where are you in that process and what would you like me to do as far as going over the visa?
I haven't been to any visa workshops or haven't gone to any appointment before. So I know that there's paperwork. Can we go through the checklist together of everything, all the documents?
Absolutely. I'll go through that paperwork and then I'll also kind of navigate some additional resources. Not only am I a resource and you're doing the best option having this one-on-one appointment, but there's also resources on our website. So I'll also kind of guide you to those while we're going through this process. So the first thing that I want to show you is going to the document checklist per se on the Chicago website. They are the source of truth. So I always direct students to be working off of that checklist. So you are going to navigate to the Chicago consulate, and I want you, I always say these are kind of the breadcrumbs on top here. So when you're on their homepage, you want to go to their consular services and visa, and then you want to select their services for foreign citizens, do visas and the visa categories and requirements. So we want you to select and get to this page, which is study, either short or long-term visa. Now, I do have hyperlinks directly to this page on our website and also on our visa workshop slide deck. And I can show you that later because sometimes students how did you get there? So I'll show you where that direct link is. But now that we're on this, I'm going to have you, of course, read through all this material. And I'm not going to read it verbatim, but it's important that you read through all of this. But as we scroll down, you're going to notice right here what's called a document checklist. And so this part here is where we're going to work off of, okay? So again, I'm going to highlight the bullet points that are important in your collection of documents, but of course, I want you to read through all the fine print behind it. Does that sound fair?
Yes, thank you, Alana.
Of course. So the first one is you are going to select this visa application form for long-term stay, 91 to 365 days. For your semester abroad, that program calculates to 108 days. So that's you fall within this date range. So this is the application that you're going to select. On this document checklist, there are hyperlinks that go directly to that form. So if you click on this, it's going to take you to that Chicago consulate application for National Visa D. So this is the form that you're going to fill out. It's going to look a little daunting. There's lots and lots of questions here. So you'll want to print this out. You can also type it out if you have Adobe Acrobat. Feel free to download it and type out your answers. But most students fill it out by hand using pen. Do not use pencil, do not use marker. So make sure you're using a ballpoint pen, and you're going to fill this out. Now, as I mentioned, these are a lot of questions, and you're probably going to say, how do I fill this out? Well, we have created a lovely template for you. So we provide you all the answers essentially on how to fill out this form. The way to find that template is to go through your Go Global application. When you do that, when you are on your Go Global application, you're going to see on the left-hand side a button that says View Program. When you select that, it's going to redirect you to the Rome brochure page on the Go Global site. From there, I want you to select the tab that says Passport and Visa Requirements. When you select that, not only this is where I'm going to talk about some of those resources. Here is the recording from our Visa workshop, but as you scroll down, you're going to see these buttons that have lots of important information. But for our purposes right now is the template. I want to point out this button here. So when you select that button, it's going to pull out that template. And as you can see, Abby, all the answers are here.
Wow,
Is that
this is
helpful?
really helpful. Yes.
Great. And so, if at any point through this process you don't understand or you have some confusion on any of these answers, feel free to reach out to me, Alana Carroll, number 8 at luc.edu, and I'm happy to answer those. Or you can reach out to Rome at luc.edu and we can help. But
And
these are
uh,
all important.
and on this, do I fill it out exactly? So I've seen a couple spaces where it says student or check this box. Should I do it exactly as I see here?
Yes, you should. Right here, because that's identifying your main purpose of the journey. So you are doing study. So make sure you do that. One thing that I'd like to highlight here is for number 25, the duration of intended stay. You need to keep that at 108 days. Even if you're traveling maybe a little bit beforehand or a little bit afterwards, that figure, that number of days does not change because that is the program dates, which is 108 days. Should you travel before or after, you're not going to come into the country as a student. You would be coming into the country as a tourist, or if you're staying later, if you ever get stopped, you wouldn't present yourself as a student. If it's after the end date, you again would present yourself as a tourist. So that day, the number of days that I have highlighted in red, 108 has to remain so. And then this is Schengen countries first entry. Some students get a little confused about that. This is the list of countries. So if you're departing the US and flying directly to Rome, you would put for number 23, Rome, Italy. However, if you are flying out of the US and coming into one of these other countries, let's say you have a layover in Belgium, you would put down for number 23, Belgium. You'd put the city and the country because it's a Schengen. That would be your first entry into a Schengen country. And then let's say from Belgium, you're going directly down to Italy. So that is one that a lot of students have questions on. Is your flight direct?
It's not direct. So there's no direct flights to Rome from Chicago in the winter. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking about doing a layover in Germany. And some of my friends though are stopping in London. Is London part of the Schengen region? Because I know it's not part of the EU.
Correct. It is not. So it's not part of the Schengen. So it's listed here. Germany is, so you would put your city in Germany down for your entry if you go that route. If you are going into London, it is not. It is not part of that.
So
So
then would I
these are
just
the
put Rome first
you
if
would
I
put
go
Rome.
to,
Yes.
okay.
Yep, because that's the first Schengen country of entry.
Would you recommend then flying to Germany or to London?
Either or, just be mindful that if you go into the UK, they do have a new requirement. It's called ETA. And that's also listed on our page here under passports and visas. And when you scroll down, you'll see here it's an electronic travel authorization. So if you are going beyond the borders, like some students may take a day in between and visit London before they move on to Rome, just know that you would have to explore obtaining an ETA. If you are just landing, like just a layover, like, you're there temporarily transferring to the plane and then going to Italy, you don't need that.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm thinking about going to London on the weekend, but it might just be easier if I fly through Germany.
Correct. Yes, exactly. All
Great.
right. So moving back to our document checklist, we talked about the visa application form for long-term stay and the template, where to find that and how to fill that out. The next bullet point is the recent passport size photograph. As you know, possibly saw on that application form in the upper right-hand corner, there was a box to put a photo. You need to obtain, and you may already have one if you have one, if you recently redid your passport, but you need to obtain a passport size photograph. And so, again, you're going to see all this finite detail behind this bullet point, and I want you to read that on your own. But you can obtain a passport size photograph either here on campus at Campus Card, and typically it's about $10, and they'll take your picture and issue you two passport size photographs. You could also go to a CVS or a Walgreens. Sometimes those are a little more expensive. So if you have the opportunity, I would recommend going to Campus Card.
And
But
where
you
is
will put,
Campus Card?
of course, yes, that's in the Sullivan Center on the first floor.
I know where that is.
Awesome. So you would apply that passport size photograph once your application is ready to go. I usually tell students to kind of leave that to the end on that application, and you can either staple or glue that to the application. Okay. So the next thing is going to be a valid passport plus one copy. So please keep in mind, Abby, that you are going to be relinquishing, giving up your passport for the duration of time in which the Italian government is reviewing your application. So you cannot travel internationally. This sometimes students don't remember this, and they may have some international travels over the holiday break in December. So you want to make sure that you are submitting your application very early on so that you get that back in order to continue on with any international travel that you have in December or during the Thanksgiving break as well. So I like to tell students, make sure you're thinking of this process and doing it early on if you do have any future international travel plans in November or December. If you don't, I still encourage students to do this much earlier. Don't leave it to the last minute, but you will need to be handing over your physical passport plus one copy. You can obtain a copy of your passport and any other documents you need at our office in the Sullivan Center, Suite 206. Just come on up here during our hours of operation, and any of our front desk workers will gladly make copies of passports, driver's license, things like that. So feel free to stop by. But you will be giving in this collection of documents that we're talking your physical passport plus one copy of your passport. Okay?
Okay, that's great. So I could get my photo in the campus ID card office and make copies of my passport at the same time because they're in the same building.
Yes, excellent point. Yes, for sure. So, moving on to the next bullet point. Abby, as I think I asked you earlier, you have a US passport, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then this next bullet point is not applicable to you. That's for non-US citizens, okay? And if that was the case, I would talk a little bit further with the students about the requirements for that. The next item is a copy of your driver's license or state ID. This acts as proof of residency for the jurisdiction of the Chicago consulate. Now, Abby, may I ask, what's your home state? Where are you from?
I'm from Pennsylvania.
Which some students get a little worried because they're like, wait, that doesn't fall under the Chicago consulate jurisdiction. That's okay. We still want a copy of your Pennsylvania driver's license. But in this situation, I always tell students, let's do a copy of your Loyola ID as well. That'll serve as proof of the jurisdiction. So let's do both. Now, if you were a visiting student who doesn't have a Loyola ID and you're going to utilize that mail-in option and you're from California, I would still recommend making a copy of your driver's license from like California. And our letterhead in which we produce the acceptance letters is on Loyola letterhead. So that'll serve as proof of jurisdiction as well. But because you're here and we can do that, I recommend making a copy of your Loyola ID along with your driver's license. Does that make
Great.
sense?
Yeah, and I can do that when I make a copy of my passport in the Sullivan Center.
Bring it all with you. We are happy to make copies of all of it. And we'll do copies of the front and the back side of each of those ID cards. Okay.
Okay.
So the next bullet point is the original and copy of the official letter of acceptance. So that is a letter that I generate from our office, and that letter is showing proof that you've been accepted to the program, and it has all these other requirements listed in there. I unfortunately cannot create that letter until you have purchased and uploaded your flight itinerary into your Go Global application. Once you do that, it sends a trigger to me that you've completed that. And so I move forward in creating this acceptance letter. As a Loyola student, you will get notification via email that the letter is ready for pickup at our office in Sullivan Center 206. If you are a visiting student, I would then ship that to you to the address that you've filled out on your Go Global for the shipping part. So I would ship those off to any visiting students. Does that make sense?
Yes, I haven't purchased my flight yet. I'm still waiting for my parents to like help me with that. But when do I get there?
Sure, absolutely. So I tell students you should be looking at the academic calendar for the Rome Center. So if you go to luc.edu/Rome, under academics, there is a drop down that says academic calendar. So when you go to the academics tab here and you do that drop down, you're going to see academic calendar. So you're going to select that. Because you're going in the spring of 26, Abby, you're going to want to select spring calendar. When you do that, scroll down. You're going to see all this information. I want you to focus on the column that says 2026. Okay, some students kind of get confused and they look at 2025. Please make sure you're looking at the appropriate column, which is 2026. And you're going to see all these dates here. And I want you to read through this calendar because it's very important because this calendar does not align with the Loyola Chicago academic calendar. You all are a little bit different with the Rome calendar. So make sure that you're looking at that. So your official move-in date is January 14th. So typically, Abby, students will schedule a flight departing from the United States on the day before, January 13th, and arriving in Rome on January 14th. And so again, you'll want to go to the main international airport in Rome. That's the easiest. And the letter code for that is FCO. So that's important to note. And I can show you on the Rome website some additional guidance as well if you need that with airports. But so you want to arrive in Italy on January 14th, and then your departure from the Rome Center is May 1st. So students, your exams will run through the 27th through the 30th. They give you a night to pack and get ready, and then leave campus on May 1st. Is that helpful with guiding you on your
Yeah.
flights?
Yeah. Do you know, is there any certain time we're supposed to be there on the 14th? I don't want to miss anything.
Sure. So that day, lots of students are coming in at various times. If you can imagine, they're coming from all different locations. So typically, they'll have the front desk and the Res Life team ready for you around 9 a.m. And that could vary. You'll get an orientation outline closer to the date from the Res Life team in Rome, outlining everything. But usually, it's 9 a.m. to about 5 p.m. Now, students may arrive much later than that, and that's okay. All the materials, because this day is just basically checking in, getting your keys, getting your ID, getting settled into your room, kind of resting. There may be one floor meeting later in the evening, and then just kind of rejuvenating from your travels. But a lot of the students, if you do come in later, past that 5 o'clock, it's okay. We do have a front desk reception that's open 24/7, and they will have all your IDs and your keys and directions, and they can guide you after that point. And then the next day is really when the activities, which are mandatory, all the activities on campus and on site begin, and that's the 15th through the 18th. The 14th, we want you there and just kind of getting settled in and going from there. Is that helpful?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I'll try to get there around 9 a.m.
Awesome. Great. Okay, so jumping back to our official letter of acceptance, once again, you purchase those tickets. And I always tell students, make sure when you are looking at purchasing your tickets, do refundable or changeable. You know, life throws some crazy curves at us. And so you want to have the ability to do that should something come up. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I tell students is don't wait. They're always looking for that last minute super deal. And that may or may not come up, but it's delaying your process with the whole student visa, all these steps. So do that now, lock it in, get your flights, and that way we're able to generate those acceptance letters, which is part of this whole visa process.
Yeah, I know I want to get my visa in right away, so I have less anxiety about it. So I'm gonna be purchasing my flight on a Tuesday when I know it's the cheapest.
Wonderful. That's an excellent idea. Okay, so moving on to the next bullet points. Some of these were you can ignore. So this next one talks about for study abroad students. You can ignore that one. The next one talks about for non-study abroad students. You may ignore that one as well. The next one is enrollment in an Italian university or corsi di laurea. You can also ignore that. And lastly, the one you can ignore is for internship. Even if you're thinking about or wanting to do an internship, it's not applicable at this stage with the student visa. So those four bullet points that I just talked about for study abroad, non-study abroad, Corsi de Laurea, and internship can all be ignored. You don't need that for this visa process submission. The next one that you will need is what's called the proof of financial means. So I may ask some, hopefully not intrusive questions, but I need to kind of guide and determine how you're going to be funding your program. And so the Italian government needs to have proof that you have access to financial means for the duration of time that you're there. And so they set up a calculation. That calculation is $1,000 per month of stay. For your semester-long program, that comes to 4,500. So that's what you need to have, Abby, in either your bank account, and you'll have to produce proof of that to the Italian government, or perhaps a parent or legal guardian may be supporting you and giving you that amount of money. And so there's different routes in how to prove that. So one, Abby, is it going to come out of your bank account or out of your parents or guardians?
I don't think I have 4,000, over $4,000 in my bank account. So I think I'm gonna have to use my parents' bank accounts to help.
Okay.
Um, yes, and I think I'm gonna go in September because right now I'm in Pennsylvania, so I don't have access to the Chicago consulate. If I drop it off in September, does that change what this looks like?
Sure. So there's a couple options. So one option is if you are relying on your parents to get you to that 4,500, sometimes students will simply have their parents transfer funds into their bank account to get them up to that 4,500. If that's the case, um, and if they do it now, we're talking July, it should be reflected in your August bank statement. And if you're planning on going in person to drop off in September, it should hopefully be there. If it's not, you have two options that you can do. You can either do three most recent bank statements. So if you're going to go in September, that would be an August bank statement, a July, and a June bank statement. So you would print out from your banking app or go into your bank and print out those bank statements. They need physical copies. The most recent one, which would be that August, would have to have that ending balance of 4,500. The other ones do not. So some students work over the summer and they're building that up. So, they say, does my June or July have to have that? No, it doesn't. You still need to print it out. They need to see the history, but the most recent one has to have that ending balance. Now, should your parents transfer that money, Abby, into your bank account, and it's not reflected in that August bank statement, you can request from your bank a letter. And sometimes that's a much easier, faster route to go as well. And that letter would have to be on a U.S. bank institution's letterhead, signed by a bank official with a recent date indicating the account balance, which again, that minimum account balance should be 4,500. That's if it's going to come out of your bank account, Abby. If your parents do not want to transfer funds into your bank account and they say, we'll do it out of our bank account, then they would have to follow the same steps. They would have to provide that proof of financial means, meaning they'd have to print out three most recent bank statements or print out a letter from their bank account in their name. In addition to that, they'd have to do what's called an affidavit of support. This is a form that has to be filled out and signed in front of a notary. And so a notary is a person who witnesses your signature and they place a stamp onto a document stating that they've witnessed it and that they know that, in fact, that signature belongs to that person. And so typically notaries can be found at banks, which is great. So your parents could go that route. Is that something you think you might want to do?
I'm not sure what my parents will end up deciding, but where
Yep,
could I find the affidavit of support in case I need it?
absolutely. So you can find it either here on the website, under the forms section in the consulate, but a much easier and faster way to get that form is again through that brochure page on the Go Global website. So when you are here under passport and visas, there's a button that says Essential Visa Forms and Links, Chicago Consulate. If you click on that, it brings up a slide. And so these are all great forms that students repetitively they need access to. So here's that affidavit of support for students. If you click on that, it will bring up that form. So I think this is kind of the easiest and fastest way for you. And so they would fill this out and they would sign in front of that notary. So they would sign here and the notary would sign here and place their seal onto the document. So this is a great spot. So you would print this out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for explaining the financial means.
Absolutely. It can get a little tricky. So again, if you have follow-up questions, by all means, reach out to me. Now, some students may also, one thing I just want to add, Abby, with the proof of financial means, some students may rely heavily on financial aid. And if that's the case, they need to request a financial aid award letter through the financial aid office, which is LUFinaid at luc.edu. And so they can request that letter and produce that letter as proof of their financial means. Some students may only have, let's say, $2,000 in their bank account, and then they're heavily relying on financial aid. So they can do a combination of the both to get them to that required 4,500. Okay,
Sounds good.
great. So the next bullet point on this document checklist is proof of health insurance coverage. That is something, again, that our office, that I produce to you as a student, along with your acceptance letters. So I do that at the same time. So once you answer and upload that flight itinerary into your Go Global, again, that sends a trigger to me. I produce the acceptance letters and I also produce the insurance letters. Again, if you're a Loyola student, you'll receive an email to come pick it up in our office. If you're a visiting student, I will ship that to you. Those insurance letters will be in English and in Italian. That's all you need to produce. And I'll also provide copies of these as well. Do not worry about the indented bullet points where it talks about certificate and affidavit. Those are not needed as the letter I produce is sufficient enough for the requirement.
Okay.
Okay. The next bullet point is proof of lodging. They need to know where you'll be staying. That is rolled into that acceptance letter. So that it's not a separate item. It's already built into the acceptance letter. It's stating that you'll be on site at the Rome Center, living in the dormitories there. The next item is confirmed flight reservation. So not only, Abby, do I need to see that early on in order to produce those acceptance and insurance letters, but you are going to need to print out that confirmed flight reservation. So when you book your flight, Abby, you'll most likely receive an email that'll have the confirmation number, your name, and all the flight details. Because you're going for a semester, you will need to print that out for them and it should be a round trip. So the Italian government needs to know when you're flying into their country and when you're flying out of their country. So make sure to print out that full flight itinerary and include it in your documents.
Okay.
And then the next bullet points are applicable should you decide to do a mail-in. If you are going to do a mail-in, you would not only have an envelope in which you are going to put all your documents into that we just talked about, but in addition to that, you would provide a return envelope. And so you would need to follow the specific directions here that they indicate. Um, that return envelope needs to be self-addressed, needs to be prepaid, and it needs to be trackable. And so the consulate, along with our office, also recommends using UPS. It's a safer form of as far as a carrier, because keep in mind you're going to have a lot of important documents plus your passport. So if that was the route you were going to go, you'd have to provide that to them. And then in addition to that, you'd have to do what's called a consent to send by mail. It's a form that you have to fill out and sign, and it's essential that you do so and include it if you are doing the mail-in. Otherwise, if you don't, they will not look at your document. So it's very important that you include this additional document should you decide to pivot and do mail-in versus a drop-off. Okay.
If I drop it off, do I still need the consent to send by mail form?
You do not, as long as you're going back and picking it up in person. And again, if you do that, once they've completed the application and they do not tell you or email you when it's ready. So it's important, Abby, that you ask them how long this process may take. And then I always tell students to kind of calculate what that is based off of their answer, put it on your calendar as a reminder, and then go back down in person. You don't need an appointment for that. Just go during their hours of operation and then bring some form of identification so that you can pick up your passport, which will have your student visa sticker within it. And in addition to that, they'll also provide you at the same time a stamped copy of one of your acceptance letters. So there's two things that you will receive once the processing has been completed and it's ready, whether it's being mailed back to you or whether you're going down in person to pick it up. It'll be that passport check to make sure the student visa sticker is contained within it, and then a stamped acceptance letter. Abby, you're going to need that acceptance letter for you need to bring that with you to Italy. It's needed for what's called the Declaration of Presence. That's a whole separate process, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So make sure you have that and make sure you bring that with you to Italy.
Do you know how long it typically takes to get it back or to go pick it up?
Sure. So if you go in person and you have a in-person appointment with a visa officer, Typically, and this can vary, but typically I've been hearing it's about 7 to 10 business days, which is great. If you are dropping it off in person, again, I would ask them. It may take a little bit longer because when you have that in-person appointment, they check through all those documents right there in the moment that you have that appointment. When you drop off, another person is having to look through that at a different time frame. So that could potentially be 10 to 14 business days. And then mail in, that's a much longer process. We always say that takes about 4 weeks. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about your time frame and when you want to do this. So again, I recommend if you are here in person in Chicago, do the drop off versus mail in.
Okay.
It's a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Okay. Very last thing, Abby, this whole process by the Italian government to review all these documents that we talked about and apply the sticker and the stamp comes with a fee. And so there is a counselor fee for that. That counselor fee must be paid to the consulate via cashier's check or money order. Do you understand what that is? If not, I'm happy to explain that a little further.
Is that like a personal check from a checkbook?
No, it's not a personal check, but it physically is a paper check. It looks like one, but it's something you have to obtain through a bank or perhaps a currency exchange. It's guaranteed funds, and so it physically is a paper looking check, but it's not from a personal checking account.
Do you
Okay.
know where I could get one?
Yes, you could go to a bank and ask, request, say, I need to obtain a cashier's check or a money order for this amount, and they will gladly do that. They'll also probably charge you a fee to do that. You could Google a currency exchange will do that, or even the post office. If you Google and call up a United States Postal Office, they will also issue a cashier's check or a money order. So you have lots of options.
Okay.
Now, lots of students ask, what is the fee for that? And so I want you to be aware that this fee can fluctuate, and it usually fluctuates on a 3-month basis. And so, in order to check what that fee is, you're going to have to go back onto the Chicago Consulate page, and I want you to go to their main page, what I call their landing page. And when you do that, when you scroll down, you're going to see a tab that says Counselor Fee. I want you to click on that. When you do so, it brings up a table. Unfortunately, this table is all in Italian and it does not translate to English. So I'm going to highlight for you the very last item, which is called the Visto Nazionale per motivo di studio, right here. And as of today, that amount, and you'll see that it's in dollars, is $56.60. I tell students, Abby, to collect all your documents, have that all ready. The very last thing should be getting the money order or the cashier's check. And I want you to check this first before you do that because it does fluctuate, as I said. And so I don't know, how much it'll change, and it's usually only a few dollars. So it may go $1 to $3 up or down. But I always want you checking this first before you get a cashier's check or money order so that you know the exact amount. Does that
Got
make
it.
sense?
Yeah, I'm not planning on dropping it off until September. So I'll look again in September
Yes.
what the consular fee is.
Perfect. Do you have any additional questions for me? I think we've pretty much
I
gone
know
over all the steps.
I know you said that with an in-person appointment, I sign my visa application with the consulate person, but if I'm dropping it off, do I still sign the last page?
You will have to sign the last page in front of a notary. So if you're going to do a drop off or a mail in, your signature has to be witnessed by a notary and a stamp has to be applied. Now, we're fortunate enough here at the Sullivan Center, same time as you perhaps go for your for your passport photo or you come up to our office to make copies, there is a notary down at the hub, which is that main desk in the Sullivan Center on the first floor. And there's a gentleman there by the name of Stuart Donna. And I believe there are some other other individuals also at that desk that are notaries, and they can witness your signature. So again, if you're doing mail in or a drop off, your signature has to be witnessed by a notary. If you are doing an in-person appointment, you will sign that visa application form in front of the visa officer. Does that make sense?
And where do they put, like, where does the notary sign the paper? Do they sign it on a separate sheet of paper or is it on the visa application?
I've kind of seen it all over. So some will actually apply it. It's kind of limited space on that third page of the visa application form. So let me pull that up. Most of them will sign right down here in this little space below. So you'll sign and date this in front of the notary. They'll apply their stamp and signature down here. Some notaries may create a separate page and do that. It depends. So it could vary, but 90% of them have it, they fit it in onto this page.
Okay. I will make sure that the notary signs it and I'll go down to the hub to do that.
Yes, and it's free of charge if you go to the hub at the Sullivan Center, whereas if you go somewhere else like a UPS store or FedEx, they may charge you for notary services. So be
You
aware of
said
that.
Stuart does the notary. Do I need to make an appointment with him or anything, or can I just go there?
No, we are very fortunate enough that at the hub in the Sullivan Center, no appointment is needed for notary services. So that's great. Now, I believe there may be some notaries at the Water Tower campus, like perhaps in the registrar's office, and those do require an appointment. So if you're here at Lakeshore campus, the easiest is to just go to the hub. No appointment needed, no fee needed.
Okay, that's great. Is that everything? Do you think once I do all this, that's it?
Yes, once you have everything collected, you should be good to go. Now, some students get a little nervous and they set up a Navigate appointment with myself just to kind of double check their documents, and I'm happy to do so. So by all means, please reach out to me or go on to the Navigate site, which is the software system that Loyola students have. In my signature block and on my website, on the pages on the website for non-Loyola students, there are links to go in and set up appointments with me via calendar. So for non-Loyola students, you can also reach out to me and we can set up a Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. It sounds like I need to purchase my flights. That seems like the most important thing. And then when I get to campus, I can start tackling the copies and the passport photo. In the meantime, over the summer, is there something else I should be working on it besides buying flights?
Well, I always encourage students to work through their Go Global requirements. Again, your fall semester gets busy and students tend to kind of forget about those things till the last minute, and then it's a scramble, and we're always kind of reaching out to you. You're getting the reminders. So chip away at all those additional requirements as best as you can. And then I think your focus, as you said, make sure you get that flight uploaded, purchase uploaded, and start collecting these documents and working from there.
Awesome. If I just have a quick question, is there a place I can like drop in and quickly ask? Do you have like office hours or satellite hours over the summer, over the semester?
So we don't have necessarily drop in. What we do have here, and I want to show you, is under our passport visas, we do have some visa drop-in sessions here. So again, when you're on that Go Global Rome Center brochure page under passport and visa requirements, we have these visa drop-in sessions. So we have lots that we're offering throughout the semester that you can certainly come to if you'd like. If you have this, these are the links that I talked about. If you are a Loyola student, you can click on here to book a Navigate appointment with me. And then if you're a non-Loyola student, this is the link to book an appointment with me as well. And then, of course, you can always email me at Alana Carroll number 8 at luc.edu or Rome at luc.edu. If you have a quick question, you can always email us and we can do that. If I'm available, if you are in the Sullivan Center and you don't have an appointment and you come up to our desk, you can see if someone's available And if we are, we'll do our best to answer your questions, or we'll tell you, this is a little bit more detailed, make a Navigate appointment, but it's not a guarantee.
Okay. I'll try to put these drop-in sessions in my calendar so I know when to come by if I have a question.
Absolutely. They're very helpful.
I think that's it. I think I feel less overwhelmed now and ready to start doing my visa. I'm so excited to go to Rome in the spring.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Abby, for jumping on this Navigate and having this appointment. I hope, we are a resource to you, so feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks, Alana.
Take care.